This is J. Krishnamurti's fourth discussion with teachers in Saanen, 1967.
Shall we go on with what we were talking about yesterday? We were saying that in the very process of uneducating ourselves, there is a new kind of education. We have built a society in which we are caught psychologically as well as physiologically. We are caught in this trap, and the trap demands certain talent, certain capacity, certain way of life. And psychologically, uneducating ourselves out of the trap we shall, I think, be able to educate ourselves in a totally different way. And that's what we have been talking about. And one of the bars of this cage of society for which we are responsible is this comparative attitude and activity towards life. And we were saying, why is it that we always compare ourselves with others or with an idea or with a pattern which we have established for ourselves or established for us by others? Why is it we compare ourselves? Why is there this spirit of comparison from childhood till almost till we die? I think it is an important question to ask and to find the right answer for ourselves. And whether in a school of the kind which we are trying to put together, whether it is possible to eliminate this spirit of comparative struggle. We said, technologically, historically, objectively, there must be probably some kind of comparison. There are more people in India and China than in Switzerland. the sea is deeper than so on, so, all that comparative way of judging, looking. But why do we psychologically compare? Is maturity the result of comparison? I don't mean physical maturity, but the psychological maturity of a human being. Is that the product of comparison? And in a school, is it possible to understand and go beyond and above this sense of measurement? Measuring ourselves with others. I think it would be worthwhile if we could go into this rather deeply, if you will. Are you waiting for me to explain? Silence is a lovely thing. To be completely silent, hearing all the noises about you, the rushing of that river, but inwardly to be quite still. And out of that, in that stillness and out of that stillness, is there any form of measurement? Is stillness, this sense of absolute inward silence, is that measurable with the silence of yesterday? And if it is measurable, then it is not silence. It's merely the continuity of a silence of an yesterday, and therefore it's already a silence that is dead. But if there is complete, real silence, it seems to me that is not measurable at all. I took that as an example. It doesn't matter. So can we go on with this question? Why do I measure myself with another or against another? What is the reason of it? Why do I do it all the time? I am not so intelligent as you are. I am not so tall as you are. I am not so rich as you are. I am not so beautiful as you are, and so on and on and on and on. Why?
Procédé de comparaison lorsqu'on veut justifier une revendication.
Justifier quoi?
Une revendication.
Revendication.
Gagner plus ou...
It's the same thing. Claim. No, sir. Let's go a little more deeply into this question, please. Sir, just a minute, sir. This is supposed to be, I don't know why, but it's all right. This is supposed to be an educational meeting in which the educator and those who are interested actually in education are supposed to discuss. And we're going to go into it a little more deeply. Why do I compare myself, measure myself with or against somebody or something? Why? You know, this is a very complex issue. I was happy yesterday and I am not today. I was extraordinarily peaceful. Everything went right yesterday. And today everything seems to go wrong. There's a different moods, a variety of moods, and the comparison between these two, between these various moods. The comparison between A and B. And A, without being told, is already comparing with B. You have more talent than I have. Why this constant measurement? Perhaps there's a lack of intensity in your action.
Is it not so that the more unhappy we are, the more we compare?
Is it not the more unhappy we are, the more we compare? Please don't put your hands up, I'm not a school teacher.
We're afraid of that.
So this lady, just a minute.
I begin to think that this should be so, or it must be so, and my thought thinks, my thought interferes, and for that reason, I compare constantly.
We compare, why?
We're afraid of that aloneness, which we confuse with being
No, sir,
alone.
if we could, for a moment, find out in yourself why you compare. Je vous en prie. Just a minute, sir, just a minute, sir.
Because we are finite and we tend towards infinite. Because we are relative and we tend towards something absolute.
No, it is the same thing you are repeating in different words. But why do we do it?
Because we have the memory of our images. They are easy to come back.
I think because I desire. I don't want us to.
We feel uncertain of ourselves.
so we try to compare them to get some idea.
Now, look, would you listen for me 2 minutes? I want to find out why I compare, measure myself against you or measure myself in order to achieve and so on. Why? I know all the explanations that you've given. This, that, and 10 different explanations. But what is the deep fact which is making me compare? The fact, not the explanation. What is making me strive? What is making me do this thing?
The ideal of what I should be. Misunderstanding of ourselves.
You see, you're giving explanations.
Because I'm in conflict with things. If I was not in conflict with things, it was not necessary for me to compare.
Would you try something? Here is a question. Here is a question. I want to find the right answer for it. I want to find why I do this. And I'm not satisfied with all the explanations which I can invent, which you can invent, which may be reasonable or unreasonable. But these explanations do not help me to find out. Right? So I push those explanations aside. And I can explain all these things, but I want to find out why I do it. Now, how do you find out? I want to find out what is the source of this comparative measuring spirit, the intention, the drive. From where does this come? I want to find out. Now, what is the process of finding out? You understand my question? I want to find out deeply in the psyche why this thing is going on. Deeply. And how do I set about it? You understand my question? No? Right? Right. I don't know the answer. I really have to look very deeply to find out. Now, how do I look? First, I must put away all explanations, mustn't I? Huh? All verbiage, all words. Because the word is not that thing. The explanations are not that thing. So I deliberately put away this. The word, the explanation, the facile interpretation and all the rest of it. So my mind is completely attentive without any interference of the word. Right? How do you Am I saying something mysterious? Huh? What do you say?
Watch ourselves while doing it.
No, please, don't, you see, I don't know why I compare myself with you. You have told me all the explanations, and also I can invent some other explanations. And explanations are not the thing. And I want to find that, the source of this comparative movement. And to find out, I must not let any word, explanations, intentions, motives interfere with that. So I must put those aside, and then I must look. And I can only look when I'm completely attentive, right? I know why I do it. I know very well why I compare myself. But have you found out for yourself? And you're going to help the student to find out. And if you smother him with a lot of explanations, it has no meaning. So, how are you going to help him and yourself to find out why this movement exists in life?
Si un enfant veut se comparer avec quelqu'un d'autre, on ne lui donne pas d'explication, ce n'est pas la peine, mais on peut lui dire qu'il veut se comparer avec quelqu'un d'autre parce qu'il a une certaine idée qu'on lui a donnée de la valeur, de sa valeur à lui.
Mais, je sais, I know that, but why do you do it? Why are you doing it? Not how to tell the student.
Parce que j'ai aussi une idée de la valeur. Je crois que ma valeur à moi, c'est quelque chose qui peut s'acquérir. C'est quelque chose qui dépend des circonstances.
You see, you are explaining, but go behind the words, sir. Why are you doing it?
I am not satisfied with myself.
Huh?
Because I am not satisfied with myself.
You are not satisfied with yourself
As I am.
as you are. Wait a minute, stop there. You are not satisfied with yourself as you are. Then why compare? No, madam, do listen. You're all so eager to get on. He said, I am not satisfied with myself as I am. Therefore, I compare myself with another. Right? See the contradiction in that. I am dissatisfied with myself as I am, so I compare myself with another. But the comparison with another has produced this dissatisfaction with yourself. And I thought, please, do listen to that question, sir. I am dissatisfied with myself as I am. And so I begin to compare myself with you who are satisfied. But how has this dissatisfaction arisen? Has it not arisen through comparison. If I didn't compare with myself with another, would I be dissatisfied with myself? And if I didn't compare myself with another, and therefore there'd be no dissatisfaction, but would I then strive to be different? Oh, sirs, you don't see all this.
Sir, I see as I ask myself that question, that in that very asking of that question is comparison. And I ask myself, why am I asking all of these questions?
No, sir, it is not comparison. You haven't listened to that question, sir. That's really a good question, if I may say so, without being patronizing or anything of that kind. But look at it, sir. How do I know dissatisfaction? Because yesterday I was satisfied with something, and that no longer satisfies me today, therefore I am dissatisfied, right? There is a comparison with yesterday. Or I am dissatisfied with myself because you are different. In comparing myself with the past or with the present, that very comparison is producing this dissatisfaction. That seems so clear, isn't it? Now, would I be dissatisfied if there was no comparison? And would that mean I would stagnate, vegetate, decay?
I don't think so, because if you have nothing to compare to,
Not you don't think so. I mean, that just, you see, you're just making a statement. You don't think so. How? You haven't gone into yourself.
I think one must have before one gets to comparing, he thinks of himself, has an image of himself as being this or that, being a writer, being something else. So he has an image of himself being exclusively this thing before he begins to compare.
Not quite, sir. Do listen, sir. There are three things. I was satisfied yesterday, and today I am not. I know my dissatisfaction because I was satisfied yesterday, the memory of it. That's one. Second, I am dissatisfied because I've compared myself with you, who are different. And that produces another dissatisfaction, right? Those are the two things. Comparison with yesterday and comparison of what I am with you, which produces dissatisfaction. Now, I ask myself, if there is no comparison, would I be dissatisfied? I wouldn't. I might be very dull. I say, all right, I'm dull. And would that end the matter? Are you not following this? Are you following this, sir?
What's an end to time?
No, not question of time, please, sir. You see, you go step by step, please, slowly, step by step. I'm not going to move from this. It's very exciting because you're going to find out for yourself something. I compared myself with yesterday, and that produced a dissatisfaction with today. I compare myself with you, and has produced a dissatisfaction today. I see that. I see that pattern very clearly, that process. Then I ask myself, has dissatisfaction produced, is dissatisfaction the product of comparison? It looks like it. And if I don't compare, what would happen?
If you don't compare, there's no escape from what is. Because in escaping, there's
If you don't compare, there will be no escape. All right, I have no escape. What happens then?
If I don't compare, I won't know if I am right or dumb.
You know. So you only know that you are dull through comparison? Oh, good God. Huh? You only know, I only know I'm stupid because you are clever? So what happens? You are far more important than me. Right? What you are is far more important than what I am. Of course. Because I only know my dullness because you are clever. Huh? So, how do I know that I am dull without comparison? And if there is no comparison at all, am I dull?
just that.
You are, right?
Or am I bright?
No, sir, no, sir. You are neither bright nor dull. You are. No, this is very important. You are. Now, what takes place then?
The other is not important.
Of course, the other is not important. You are. Then what happens? You are neither bright nor dull, but you are. Right? Then what happens? Go on.
Whatever you are has a chance to be.
Huh?
Whatever you are has a chance to be.
Yes, whatever you are has a chance to be. Now, how does that happen? You don't.
The energy is not split up anymore.
That's just an idea. I'm sorry, I won't accept ideas. It means nothing to me. I am not comparing anymore. You know what that means? What a tremendous thing that is?
We live fully, no longer in fragments.
Yes, sir, we live fully, no longer in fragments. All right. You understand what this means? I am not comparing myself with anybody, which doesn't mean I am vain. Or that I am satisfied myself. That spirit of comparison has completely come to an end, which means I have no ideal. I I have no example. I have no hero. I have no saint with which I am going to compete to break the record. Right? I am completely alone with what I am. No? Huh? What's up? No, no. There is the memory of yesterday, satisfaction, yesterday's happiness, whatever it was, and that remembrance of that has produced this misery today. So, when I put away all comparison, I also have to put away the sense of the past. Which means the thing of what I am now has no relation to the past. I am not looking at it with the sense of comparative remembrance. Right? That means what? Huh? No, madam, little more, go into it, please. You see, if you would stop explaining and supposing if and all that kind of thing, then you can go into it.
So is it possible to think without comparison?
Isn't it possible to think? Is it possible to think without comparison? Logically perhaps and mathematically, but actually, is it possible to think without comparison? Beg pardon?
You don't think if you compare.
You don't think if you compare.
No, if you are without comparison, you don't think anymore.
Without comparison, you no longer think.
Or is it that you don't react to a thought?
Ekalo. You go into it. What are we trying to discuss? We are trying to find out how to uncondition the mind, which is conditioned by comparison, right? In a school with so many boys and number of teachers, how to eliminate or how to go beyond this comparative feeling. That's what we are discussing. And to understand this sense of comparison, because that sense of comparison destroys what you are. I don't know this. If I compared myself with St. Francis, is it St. Francis? Yes, good enough. Or with some Indian saint, who is important? St. Francis and some Indian saint. And giving importance to St. Francis or to some Indian saint is a projection of myself. So what has happened? I am worshipping myself through St. Francis, through the saint. And if I don't do that, what happens?
One is no longer a slave to what he's comparing.
Yes, sir. If I don't do that, what takes place in me? I wish you would go into it and do it. Actually do it. I don't want to be like you. Or anybody. And I don't want to be something which I remembered I ought to be. Right? So, what takes place in me?
You are free.
Now, please watch yourself, you're not answering me.
When stops.
Do look, what takes place in me?
I find myself alone and unique.
That's too quick, sir. I wish it was so easy as that to be unique. What takes place in me? When I have no example, when I am what I am. I am a damn bore. Please look at yourself, what takes place. If you have no example, no ideal, no pattern to follow, nothing to compare yourself with something. You are not what you are. On the contrary.
No imitation.
Huh?
No imitation.
No imitation.
Oh, that's... I said, finish, sir. You see, you can't go into... Well, I give it up.
I have a sense of alive, of being very alive.
Being very alive can be terribly mischievous, can't it? No? No, please.
I must act in a different way.
Huh?
I will act, it seems to me that I will act in a different way.
Yes, you'll act in a different way, obviously.
Then you are your own source. I meet life directly. I don't meet any ideals, but I meet what is.
Yes, but go further than that. You understand? I crave power. I want to be somebody. I want to be famous. I want to exert little power I have over others. Huh? How did this craving come into me? I see other people so powerful, and I also want to be that. It gives me great pleasure. And if there is no comparison at all, would I want to exert power over others? Would I have even that urge for power? So I am seeking through every means to be different from what is, right? And what is the product of this comparison. You don't see that. Got it? Has somebody got it? Well, it doesn't matter, sir. So, let's come back. It's too, you can't go so far. So, there are A and B in a school. The A is always being compared with B. And we say that destroys A. In a subtle form, it also warps, distorts B. Now, how is a teacher, a group of teachers, to eliminate or modify or completely do away with the sense of, with this comparative sense which A has? Isn't that the problem? Huh? Is that right? Right. How am I to do it? Because what is going to happen to A? It's going to twist him, it's going to warp him, distort him. Right? Because he is shaping himself after B. And I don't want him to be himself, because what is himself? You follow? I don't know if you follow. He's very little, he's nothing. You may have one or two talents, but he's not a complete human being. So, how am I to help him? You must have this in your family, don't you? There are two boys or two girls or one boy and so on. They compare with each other all the time, don't they? No? And battle with each other. You are more beautiful than I am. You have longer hair, you have brighter hair, blonde hair. You follow? All that's going on between themselves. And so they eventually become enemies, hateful to each other. And that's the world pattern. Now how are you going to prevent this happening in your family?
Get them so interested in something that they forget themselves.
But if they forget themselves, the questioner says, get them interested in something that will absorb their interest and they will forget themselves. That's another trick. When that interest goes, they'll come back to the same pattern. How is a mother, father, or a teacher to eliminate this comparison? Please go into it.
Learn them to be really interested.
First of all, is this a problem to you? If you have two children or two brothers, and they're at it, hitting each other, battling with each other, pulling. You know what's take place when each one says, you are more beautiful than I am. They're jealous, hateful. And you say, for God's sake, I must find a way out of this. I must help them. What will you do?
First thing seems to me is to stop comparing. I mean, parents have to stop comparing. That's the first step.
But how am I going to help those two who are fighting each other? want to create enmity in the world, that's the best way, right? England is better than France, France is better than Germany, and the Frenchman is far more clever than the stupid who, I don't know, whoever it is, and so on and on and on.
One must talk about the image.
And how am I, who want to live peacefully, and who insist that I live peacefully, how am I to help this, to alter all this? Especially in a school where they have to live 8 months of the year or more with a group of teachers and not create enmity between themselves and with the teacher against the teacher, boy against the boy, girl, and so on. How?
I should try to show them that they in reality are the same.
I don't want to show him anything. I want him to find out.
Just to listen and to smell and to see. It's in that.
As a teacher, we want them to find out what is implied in it and naturally stop it. But if I become an example of non-comparison, I ought to be kicked in the pants. Comparative, yes. Sorry.
Monsieur, j'ai fait comme vous procédez avec nous actuellement, avec mes deux petits-fils qui sont en discussion continuelle par comparaison.
We should say,
Je leur ai parlé
j'en sais, mais
et je leur ai demandé qu'ils m'expliquent à moi pourquoi ils étaient en train continuellement de se comparer. Et je dois continuer le processus. Je ne connais pas encore les résultats.
yes, sir. How will the teachers meet this problem? How will you meet it in your family?
So there seems to be two times when this doesn't happen. When one is immediately attentive to everything. When one is absorbed. So by looking at when it doesn't happen, how can one continue? Immediate attention.
Look, sir, when one is absorbed in something, like a child absorbed in a toy, what is important? The toy is important, not the child. Because the moment you remove the toy, he is back to where he was, mischievous and, all that takes place. So, if you supply the student with something that will absorb him or give him interest, you are giving him an escape from this. So, let's eliminate absorption. Put away the idea of making him interested in something. Then you have that single problem. How do you help him or bring about in him the feeling of not comparing himself with anybody?
So maybe we can go into it slowly. I think that first of all, still we don't condemn or something like that.
No.
That's the first thing he has to do.
Look, I have two children, two students. I'm a teacher. And I want to help them not to have this spirit. Now what am I to do? I feel this very strongly. First, because it creates enmity in the world. It creates anger, hatred between those two. When a Frenchman says, I'm much more intellectual than that stupid somebody or other, you've already created enmity. So I feel this sense of enmity, hate, is a terrible disease in the world. And I want to prevent that these two or this group of children catching the disease. Now, what am I to do?
Je peux leur montrer que ce qu'on appelle habituellement des qualités n'existe pas, n'a pas d'importance.
No, mon cher ami. But it has, so look, what am I to do with those children?
Teacher has to render the pupils attentive anytime this comparative spirit arises during the day, so that they become conscious of it.
How am I going to help them to be conscious of it? They don't know this. They don't know this comparative, all the rest of it. How am I going to help them? Go slowly, step by step, go into it. First, I will talk to them, won't I? Because I feel very strongly about this. I talk to them. I talk to them in the class, outside the class, in the playing field, when they are eating. I talk to them about it. Not try to change them. Not try to make myself into a perfect example, non-comparison. But I talk to them about it. I point out all the implications in this. Hate, jealousy, nationalistic competition, and so on, and leading to war. I go into this very, very, very carefully. Won't I? No? And to do that, I must feel the importance of this, mustn't I? As a father, it is dreadful to see my two children fighting each other about because they have long nose, short nose, or whatever it is. I say, for God's sake, how am I going to prevent this? And I talk to them. And my talking to them has very little effect. Because short noses are the fashion. Or blonde hair or whatever it is a fashion. And one girl says, I must be like that. I can go on talking till doomsday, she'll go on. Right? No? Aren't you parents? Some of you? Don't you know this? So what do?
The moment the pupil feels that he is accepted, loved as he is.
Accepted love?
As he is.
He doesn't accept as he is. How am I going to make him accept?
Talk with him.
He doesn't care, sir. So what are you people? Have you talked to your child when he wants to, become a beatnik? And he's going to become one? Have you talked to him? You may have love in your heart, whatever that stuff is in your heart, and will it? Huh? No, sir, you're missing the whole thing. First of all, you are putting yourself as an example, right? Huh? Come on.
We pontify.
We pontify, that's right. Which means you are an example. Why are you an example? Do you know what you're talking about? When you said, with your love in your heart, talk to them, do you know what love is in your heart? When you want to bust somebody, when you want to become important, is that love in your heart? Come off it. So can you talk without any love in your heart, which is a deadly thing, without being an example, without being a parent, without being a teacher? So we have to learn ourselves as teachers, as parents, how to talk, how to explain, how to be yourself. Children generally smell the hypocrisy of talk. Right? When you say, I have love in my heart, you must be that, they know jolly well you don't mean it. So, you see, sir, what is involved in this problem? The things that are involved in this problem is first, not only the teacher, the parent, but how he talks, how he feels about the matter. Not what he says, but what actually he feels about it. I may say, you must be comparative, my darlings, but I, in myself, I'm going to compete with somebody who's got a little more power. And he smells that immediately. It stinks. And so I've lost. I'm completely lost. He'll never trust me again. So I have to learn first about myself. I can only learn about myself in relationship with the student. But if I start off with the student telling him, I have love in my heart, I want you to do that, So can there be this relationship in which there is no double talk at all, double standard? Well, that's one problem. We'll leave that, we'll go back into it. The other problem is how to discourage brutality, cruelty. In the student, and therefore in myself as well. You know what I mean by brutality? Anger, wanting to hit somebody because I don't like him or he'd say something to me, and so on, so on. The sense of anger. the sense of violence. How am I as a teacher going to prevent this? Not only brutally outside, objectively, but inwardly. Because what one is inwardly, that expresses itself outwardly. It's like drawing up. Governments do what peace is, and inwardly every politician is at each other's throat. How am I as a teacher to prevent this happening in the school and not make them sissies, softies? How? You know, human beings are very aggressive, like the animals. And how am I, as a teacher, with the other teachers, to soften this aggression, eliminate it altogether? How? Beg your pardon?
Don't you also have to take into consideration the problem of guilt without handling the anger?
Yes, guilt is involved in it too. What am I to do? You must have seen boys setting a trap to catch birds. And they catch a bird with broken leg in the trap. They don't mind killing animals very easily with their slings or with their shotguns. How are we going to prevent this? Don't say I will not give them guns or slings. They'll find it.
Until this moment,
Huh?
until this moment, I myself told the boys what is for the animal and what should be for himself to be done.
Will that stop it?
Sometimes I hope.
Sometimes, like, look, smoking. You don't want your boy to smoke till he's 20, I don't know why, but doesn't matter, till 20. But he goes round the corner and smokes.
Because he doesn't understand well the damage of it, but he can understand.
They don't understand the damage to the lung, but they go on. The grown-ups go on with their filters, with their doctor's advice, but they still go on. How are you going to prevent all this? We took brutality. How? Please, sir, that's your problem as teachers. What will you do?
In my reaction to their brutality, I must discover the brutality in myself.
I do. I do discover my brutality. And then in the very discovering of it, I want to help them to discover it for themselves. But I can't tell them you're brutal. Then that's, you follow, sir? I want them to have this extraordinary sensitivity to brutality. Not I want. As a teacher, I want all the to prevent this taking place. How is it to happen? Is this boring, all this? You know, we kill animals very easily. We kill them to eat, We kill them for so-called sport. The killing spirit is very easily aroused. I mean, as a teacher, it's my job to see that this thing doesn't exist in them. Because we may have to create a different world, a different society, not a killing society. So what am I to do? Allez-y, madame. Yes, all right. You saw the bird when it has been dead and explain to him how terrible it is, what is involved in it, and so on, so on, so on, so on. Will that stop it? Well, man has known what a dreadful thing war is when they have grown up, not when they are children. And yet they join you follow, they have gone on with wars. What disaster it is to any nation.
Maybe the other way around, asking him why he does it.
Oh yes, it is fun. All the other boys have done it. He hasn't thought about it at all.
Yes, but next time maybe he will think about it.
Next time he will think about it. Why the next time can you not prevent the first time? Oh, Father.
So if he's familiar with birds, with a living bird, what it's like and everything, he won't be able to kill it. It's only that he doesn't know what it really is.
Look, madam, man has known the disaster of war. The brutality, the cruelty, the illness, the ill health, the maimed, the no arms, no eyes. He has known all this. And yet it goes on.
So, can you be something to understand?
Can you, sir?
I don't think so.
What did you say? I didn't hear.
Can you be brutal to something you understand?
Can you be brutal? Huh? Can you be ruthless to something which you understand?
All these questions, whether of comparison or brutality or whatever it is, can't be dealt with separately.
I quite agree, sir. The questioner says these questions of comparison, brutality, and so on cannot be dealt with separately, not fragmentarily. They must all be taken together.
And the outcome of this right relationship, which we discussed previously, is itself the answer.
Yes, sir. But you see, these problems arise. I feel it should all be dealt with as not as fragments, totally. But these problems arise. How am I to deal with students or as a teacher who I as a teacher feel all problems are interrelated, totally. They cannot be separated. But the student doesn't understand that. He's brutal, he's comparative, he's this, he's that, he's chat. And I say, now, I may have a total comprehension of it all. And I want to convey that to the boy. How? When he is brutal, how am I to help him or create in him this sense of real, of, all that? How?
We must really be non-violent ourselves, and we're not. So how can we convey anything?
That's one of the problems. So we're not non-violent. That's agreed. I'm afraid all this points to something which is we have never thought about these things deeply. You follow, sir? We have thought about them casually. There must be no war, how dreadful wars are. My son is killed and cry over it. But we have not gone to the root of it. You follow? I think we better stop because it's past time and we'll continue tomorrow.